I'm live streaming in a couple seconds. Firdaus, are you ready with the videos?
U-Inspire Alliance is a network of youth and young professionals working in science, engineering, technology, and innovation.
U-Inspire Alliance provides the platform for youth and young professionals to connect, engage, and learn from other youth and experts in the region.
We are not only at the international conferences or at the laboratories. U-Inspire is working together with the local community in the field.
Our main objective is to provide a platform for youth and young professionals to participate in problem-solving actions towards disaster risk reduction.
To participate in decision-making, demonstrating their ability for advocacy, communication and consultation, as well as leveraging advanced technology.
We strongly believe that inclusivity is the integral factor of the DRR. Hence, all our work and projects are people-centric and from the communities on the ground.
We are committed to supporting youth leadership. We are happy to work with the U-Inspire Alliance.
U-Inspire Alliance bridges the gap between professionals and young specialists and make it possible to exchange knowledge and experience between Asian countries to make them more resilient.
We work with youth and the young professionals from the academe and the industry sectors to build back better in a post-pandemic world.
U-Inspire has connected us and bring us together to contribute for disaster risk reduction and climate change by utilizing science, engineering, technology, and innovation.
Asia and Pacific are among the most at-risk world regions to the intensifying impact of multiple hazards and accelerated exposure with equal paced building of vulnerabilities. Young people are considered one of the most vulnerable groups from these impacts. In addition, climate change, COVID-19 pandemic, and other compounding and cascading hazards have been posing additional threat and changing the risk scale.
On the other hand, Asia and the Pacific, as dynamic, innovative, and fast-growing world regions, have played an instrumental role in achieving the targets set by 2030 Agenda through firm commitments and regional cooperation. Youth and young professionals in this region as early adopters, innovators in digital cultures and economy are contributing to disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and resilience through an interplay of entrepreneurship, science, technology, innovation, risk communication, and local level actions leading to science policy nexus. While the YYPs have been contributing to DRR and climate actions at the local, subnational, national, and regional level, adequate support and opportunities are limited. As a result, YYPs are struggling to have access to support their higher education, research, local actions, and building DRR-related social enterprise.
Under the You Inspire Alliance, youth and young professionals in science, engineering, technology, and innovation for disaster and climate resilience are committed to contribute to the targets set by the Sendai Framework for DRR 2030 by collaborating with various YYP-led organizations to support DRR, CCA, and resilience at regional, national, and local levels by utilizing science, engineering, technology, and innovation.
Explore all possible means to enhance their capacity at the leadership of youth and young professionals, including women, marginalized, and people in most vulnerable conditions, to be able to take part in solving real-world problems on disaster and climate change-related issues, and in becoming a role model to other youth and young professionals across the globe.
Foster transboundary collaboration among YYPs organizations working in the field of disaster and climate resilience for greater visibility and meaningful impacts.
Provide support to local and national governments to adopt the science policy nexus, as well as to implement the risk-informed decision-making and planning and budgeting in building disaster and climate resilience.
Disseminate science-based data, information, and good practices to enhance data and evidence-driven decision-making processes to ensure risk-informed sustainable development.
Promote children's meaningful participation with the efforts of youth and young professionals, including early career researchers, to better understand the prospect of sustainable development within the concurrent multi-hazard riskscapes and green growth.
Upon implement and expand our commitment of actions above, we recommend policymakers, global conveners, private sectors, research and educational institutions to create a greater synergies and collaborations between stakeholders that enable youth and young professionals to participate in and influence development and policymaking processes in the field of disaster and climate resilience.
To increase opportunities and investments on capacity building for YYPs and early career scientists by extending scholarships, grants, endowments, mobilizations, seed fundings, and other forms of investments.
To advocate the recognition of a formal mechanism for YYP's representation and engagement in disaster and climate resilience at local, subnational, and national levels, governments, disaster management agencies, intergovernmental organizations, international organizations, and UN agencies.
To nurture the culture of social entrepreneurship or sciencepreneurship led by youth and young professionals to build resilience at local levels.
To establish programs that enable networking between the YYPs, policymakers, communities, businesses, and financial institutions, which in turn create communities in responding and making science, engineering, and technologies relevant in the market of resilience building.
Thank you, Hanif and Daus. Are we good to go?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Before we start the session, I request all our attendees to kindly ensure that their microphones are muted and videos are turned off to avoid any unintentional disturbances for our speakers. Om Swastiastu from the GPDRR delegates of the U-Inspire Alliance. A gap of 1 month and a bag full of 1 month. We are excited to be back and resuming with our fascinating tradition of Choco Talk series with a twist. The twist is this exclusive chapter called the Bali Booster, following up with GPDRR 2022, is an effort from us, the organizing team of the Choco Talk, to our peers, juniors, and everyone as a token of sharing from what we learned at the GPDRR. The global platform for disaster risk reduction was held in, the global platform for disaster risk reduction, it is the main global forum to assess and discuss progress on the implementation of SFDRR or Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. So while the previous GPDRR was held in Cancun, Mexico, in the year 2017, this GPDRR took place in Bali, Indonesia, between 23rd to 28th May 2022. A grand event, and more than that, as a recognized voluntary organization in numerous ways, here, U-Inspire Alliance as an entity, as a recognized voluntary organization of youth and young professionals in the domain of disaster risk reduction and disaster risk management, we got the opportunity to not only attend it in person, but also to participate and display our work at the innovation platform. So I think in the past 1 month of our tryst with GPDRR and Bali, I think we have all realized that day by day, U-Inspire Alliance is spreading its wings, and that is something which is highly commendable. On this note, with a much deserving acknowledgement for the efforts of the U-Inspire Alliance, I invite the chair of U-Inspire Alliance, Mr. Pradeep Khatiwada, to grace this session of ours with his opening words and share with us if there are any strategies for GPDRR 2025, which is to be held in Geneva, for, let's say, more constructive representation of the youth, or maybe U-Inspire Alliance in general, or what reforms or developments are you expecting in the upcoming years?
Well, thank you, Sharon, for this wonderful gathering. And first of all, I would like to congratulate all of us for putting this effort in the Bali conference. And what a great representation of youth and young professionals in every sector. So that may be the official statement that we just watched. We had a booth, there was a session on the different panels representing youth and young professionals, especially U-Inspire Alliance. So it was a great representation, to be honest, because we have seen this journey from Geneva conference to 4 years back conference, and then this conference in Bali. And what we are expecting more is something that would be interesting to actually see and discuss. But I think just to go back, as this is also a reflection event, so what I would like to appreciate, especially the host country, and U-Inspire Indonesia being the host country itself. So what a great efforts they have put in welcoming all these different country chapters, and also creating this collaborative mechanism. And a big shout out to Rahma as well. So she has been a fantastic representation in every part of GPDRR, main events. So that was a great memory for me. So regarding the strategies, to be honest, what I would like to suggest, or I mean, what the way forward should be in terms of representation. We have achieved a huge milestone right now, but I think now this is a time that we make it these efforts actionable and come up with some action research or examples or some new innovations, so that like we can come with the solutions or some ground level activities. So that should be something for upcoming GPDRR. The second is, how can we make it more representative? How can we bring more and more individuals from different parts of the world? How we connect this? So that should be the second priority. The third is, I think there should be more collaboration, more networking with other individuals, because when we were in booth, there were more people coming from different kind of networks, with similar kind of agendas and aspirations. So how can we make this networking of youth and young professionals bigger, not just limiting to Asia and Pacific region? We have already moved on to a few other countries, but how can we make it global? So I think that aspiration is also important. And I think the final one is how we document all these things. So the documentation is also important. Whatever we learned, we have some glimpse that we have captured on the video, but how we document all these things through a medium of blogging or vlogging or more research papers or some other way, how can we do that? So I'm so glad that this session is also recorded. So this will also can act as a documentation, but can we do more? So I think that is also very important. So these are the 4 points that I would like to put forward. So other than that, I think in terms of looking into our journey, so we have moved really quick, really fast. So sometimes we have to reflect also, like, is this speed, good enough? Because we also need to see, like the balance of our growth and speed as well. But I think we have to amplify this. We have to reflect all our learnings, and we have to get this aspiration on track. And I think this is on track, but we have to, there is a bigger opportunities looking for us. And one more thing before I end this welcome remarks. So there was this very important session with the Deputy Secretary General, and there was young participants from different countries, and Rahma and I was representing U-Inspire Alliance. So in that meeting, taking the quote from Deputy Secretary General, what she suggested was the linkages of sustainable development goals, climate change, and disaster risk reduction. So how can our role be, like prominent? How can our role be strategic on that? We have been talking about all these things, but I think putting us right to that track is also very important. And let's try to see even bigger opportunities linking these two bigger components as well. So there is much more things that can offer for the youth and young professionals. And I think we can do much more on that. So with this saying, I would like to congratulate all of you for this hard effort you have put forward, especially to the Indonesia, because being the host country, the level of efforts you guys have kept was commendable. And thank you everyone who was part of this, and for representations, or strong representation, I would say. So thank you, and over to you, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Those were very relevant points. Thank you for sharing them. It was reassuring and motivating. Dear all, from here on, our actual session starts. And as we proceed with the session, I request everyone to kindly note down their questions or type them out in the chat box. We will try to take them up at the end of our session. And in case we are not able to, we request you to kindly email your questions at uinspire.alliance@gmail.com, as mentioned in the chat box, and we'll certainly try to get back to you as soon as possible. Today, we have with us a few of those members of the U-Inspire Alliance who experienced GPDRR directly, very closely. We shared with them a few questions which came from different people. These are the questions which we think can help us understand what, how and when of GPDRR in particular, and conferences like these like this one in general. So I'll read out the question allotted to them, the questions allotted to them, so that they can shed light on it, backing up with their respective takeaways. So Hanif, this one's for you. To begin with, when I think of GPDRR, the first thought that comes to my mind is its, let's say, intricate grandness. I mean, there were so many events and different sorts of them. There were thematic sessions, parallel sessions, special sessions, high-level dialogues, stakeholder meetings, etc., etc. And all of them, they seemed so very important. So for a person who may be attending such a conference for the first time, how is he, she, or they supposed to approach it? Which session to attend? Which one would be important? And also, you know, there is this underlying fear of missing out because all the sessions appear so captivating. So yeah, Hanif, a member of You Inspire Indonesia, will guide us here. Hanif, over to you.
Okay, thank you for the question. That was like the fundamental question, I guess. Every time we go to like a big conference or like a global platform like this, that will be the first strategy. I think everyone should have their own strategy. The only official information that we got from an event like GPDRR is through their website. So the first thing is get familiar with their website, because that's all the information. Their website has all the information that you need. But the thing is, sometimes their website is not updated yet because not all the events or like the side events are finalized. But you have to keep check their website like weekly, just in case there are new updates on specific agendas. And the next thing is the agendas itself. Even before all the session are finalized, they have this general agendas. So in the beginning, we know that there will be different sessions. There will be a high-level dialogues. There will be midterm review. There will be ministerial roundtable, but they don't put any details on it. So looking at that, you can start from your interest and what you are planning to get from joining or like from going to GPDRR. Start researching on the general agendas, and also maybe you can also check on your friends who are also planning to go to, and maybe you can also like brainstorm and also have a discussion on how to be able to get the best out of an event like this. That will be the two key things, I guess, to start with. And I believe that there will be other things to be discussed on this.
Right. Thank you, Hanif. Because the website can be quite overwhelming. So these are the things that not everyone can tell us, and many of us actually hesitate to even ask so as to not sound immature. But I think the truth is we all need the kind of guidance that you very patiently helped us with. Thank you once again. So the next question is for our second representative from You Inspire Indonesia, Basita. Communique, it's basically an official statement made by an entity. So UA as one of the stakeholder groups, it presented and submitted its communique. So Basita, how do you think we should move forward with it to showcase our progress in the next at the next GPDRR?
Thank you for the question, Saran. I will try to answer the question by using my presentation. To be honest, I'm not the one who created the communique, because I'm only the person who come to this event as a representative of student and youth in Indonesia. wait, I'll try to move forward from communicate. Yeah. I'll tell you again, I'm the representative of student and youth in Indonesia, also a representative of Inspire Indonesia in the GPDRR 2022. Talking about communicate, maybe it's the thing that you already know and it's already read it in the opening of this event. The communique consists of the experience, the commitment, and the recommendation. I think we already have something really strong. We have a commitment. This consists of 8 commitments. The first one is engage, work, contribute, and the other one we already read it in the opening of this event. According to the commitment, the last one is highlight about explore children's meaningful participation with the effort of YYPs, including early career researchers in disaster and climate resilience. If you don't know about me, I'm maybe the youngest one who attend the GPDRR, who is representative Inspire Indonesia, and because of this communique, we can explore all the things here from Indonesia representative delegates. Yeah, we already made Indonesian children and youth statement. It's not only come from us or from Inspire Indonesia, but from any other different organizations such as Ohana Visi, UNICEF, and the other one. By using the Inspire communique, we can make the different commitment and we can explore the things to the other action. And this is one of the action we as children and youth, we already made children and youth statement from Indonesia, and we bring our voice to higher level. So we already joined a global children and youth on DRR. We discuss about something like DRR and the climate change. I think that's the thing that I can explain about communique and the communique from Inspire Alliance. And so that I think
Basita, sorry to interrupt. I think you need to check your mic once. We are not able to hear you clearly. Okay, Basita. While she checks her mic and gets back with us, maybe let's move on to our next speaker and we can come back to Basita once again later. Gusti from Inspire Indonesia. The next question is for you. So a majority of sessions of the GPDRR talked about community level interventions and community participation. However, to what extent could they convey what to do? What are your suggestions or recommendations for platforms like GPDRR to make them more, let's say, inclusive in this context?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for delivering the questions. So I think for answering this question, I'm trying to list down what we get from the GPDRR and how we can deliver our interventions and aspirations in GPDRR. So I don't know whether everyone can move on from our memorable moments at GPDRR because we've been through hard times in pandemic and not meeting with many persons in person. So in GPDRR, of course, for me, it's my first time too in the big conference such as GPDRR. So we were meeting with everyone else all over the world concerning disaster risk reduction, especially meeting with you all in Inspire Alliance. So yeah, I tried to list down what we get or what I get from GPDRR and how we can deliver our interventions and our aspiration. So before we were going to the GPDRR, stakeholders in Indonesia were gathered in an online session about Sendai framework, voluntary commitments. So in the session, who also attended by the UNDRR high levels from Japan, we are explained about the Sendai framework voluntary commitments, where UNDRR provided an online platform to advocate all approaches from community and stakeholders in implementing DRR. So in delivering our interventions, actually we can submit our deliverables, for example, from Inspire Indonesia or Inspire Malaysia, Nepal, Japan, in implementing the DRR in our countries. Actually, in the website, I've seen reports from Inspire Indonesia, Inspire Malaysia, Nepal, and Japan. So we can report it to UNDRR, and it has been monitored by them. In the Sendai framework voluntary commitments itself, actually the majority that submitted the report is from non-governmental organization. So I hope that government bodies and agencies also can submit through the online platforms. And the second one, we can deliver our aspiration from the official statement or communique, like Basita said. From Inspire Alliance itself, already submitted through the UNDRR website, and so we can spread our messages, commitment, and advices for other stakeholders like governments and other agencies. The third one is from innovation platform. I was happy and grateful I can contribute it from innovation platform, so we can meet each other from Inspire Alliance, and we can deliver our achievements. And I don't know what I feel from innovation platform, that this sense of collaboration is so high, so we can talk to high level from the UN, so we can talk to other stakeholders from all over the world. And the last one is through United Nations major group for children and youth. So Basita, Nanda, and I from Inspire Indonesia we got opportunities to deliver our aspirations through UNMGCY. We also deliver aspirations from Inspire Alliance also, and through this forum we can meet children and youth from all over the world and understanding their culture and aspiration. So regarding your question, I think we can submitted our interventions and aspiration through the Sendai framework voluntary commitments, and also from Inspire in every countries. Hopefully we can submit our reports too. I think that's all from me, Sarah.
Thank you, Gusti. Basita, do we have you here again?
Yes, I'm here again.
Yeah, do you want to add anything? Because we could not hear you towards the end.
I think it's already done for me. Maybe several things that I highlight about the move after GPDRR and from the communique is we need to commit our commitment. It's the thing that I want to help. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Basita. So I think over 2.5 months before GPDRR actually began, we all the several chapters of You Inspire Alliance together worked on bringing that communique into existence. And it went through several changes, drafts with agreements and disagreements and whatnot. So having put in so much effort into it, it is important to remember that it has a means and a destination, and definitely it will not end up getting just shelved somewhere. Thank you for reminding us what we stand for and move with. Thank you, Vasita. And Gusti, you know what? I recall reading this somewhere very recently about Professor Rajiv Shaw, who is a stalwart in our domain and the recipient of the prestigious Sasakawa Award at the GPDRR 2022. I recall how he contributed in changing the last mile for DRR into the first mile. And that innovative solutions, how they can be brought about. For some reason, your sharing reminded me of that. Thank you, Gusti. So next up, we have Nurzaihan from You Inspire Malaysia. And do we have you?
Yes.
Hi. So the question that we have for you, it holds my special interest, and I'm guessing you already know that. So GPDRR 2022, it saw a good amount of female participation in different capacities. Being a rising professional in You Inspire Alliance, what are your observations? Do you think that inclusivity is enough? Or are we on the right track, or do we need to pause and revamp our pathway? Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Saran, for the question. Yes, because this will be my first time involved in this GPDRR, and I was very lucky because it was held in Bali, which is much more closer to Malaysia compared to Geneva. So my first impression when I reached in this GPDRR event, I was quite surprised because there is a lot of women participates in this such a global event. And then I did attend several of the sessions because, because of the schedule is all the session is parallel and everything, but I did attend several of the sessions, and it is not disappointed because at least there would be one woman speakers in the sessions. And most of the sessions that I attend, they will have more than half is women speakers. And again, this woman speakers is actually involved in a very major session of the GPDRR. And I did also have conduct my own research, which is try to look back on what are the previous GPDRR, how does the women participate in that. And actually in the previous, which is the 6th session of the GPDRR, they did have a session of the women in DRR. And for this 7th session, which is the recently happened, we have more session to it's like a very specific just for women's voice, for women to voice up their initiative and everything or opinions in this GPDRR. And I could see that we are really on track, or maybe we already ahead of the track, because we actually answering the call by the Center from Book to engage more participants from women, which is women are counted as the vulnerable groups. And women is not only adult ladies, but women also is what I see. There's a lot of young generation, which is the children from the girls, everything. They also participate, like the tsunami ready simulation that me and you also got joined at the Nusa Dua. So there's a lot of young children, which is the girls, very, very actively participate during the sessions. And I believe this is how we want to train, or we want to encourage more women participate in this DRR, which is we have to start from the bottom. we have to start from the very young age so that they will understand what is the DRR. Because even me as the, I'm not, to be honest, I am not disaster risk management experts, because I came from the interior design background. So I have to do a lot of research on what is DRR. But by attending this kind of event and getting inspired by this woman participant in this GPDRR, I have some kind of objective that I need to achieve in this DRR fields. So yes, I think we really on track, because based on the records that UNDRR shows, for the 7th session of GPDRR, 41% of the total participants or the total guests is women. So we really count as a very loud voice. So I think this will be getting better and better for the next session or the day by day. I believe it will be like that. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And so a few days before GPDRR ended, and I think you can recall that I and Anne, we came across an article somewhere which expressed how the events where gender considerations were mainstreamed in the agenda of GPDRR, they seem to replicate the dominant discourse of women as naturally vulnerable. From there on, our discussion on this topic had been quite, I think, power-packed.
Yes.
And I relived all of it when you were sharing your takeaway from this event and on this question. So thank you once again, Anne.
And then just give some addition from the one that you just mentioned about the articles. Actually, me, you, Saran, and also Dr. Rama just completed writing a paper on women participates in GPDRR 2022. And I hope that the paper will get a good review and can get published, so that we can share our voice as an Inspire Alliance about these topics.
Yes, thank you, Anne. And we have Rachel from You Inspire Philippines, which is one of the newest chapters of You Inspire Alliance, having recalled that with a lot of happiness. Rachel, what are the 3 unforgettable moments for you at GPDRR?
Hi, Saran, and it's really nice to see everyone. Thank you for all our attendees. And I'd like to share with you a very comprehensive and in a snapshot of my personal experience in the 7th Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction. And I'm very much fortunate because I was joined by very active young professionals across the Asia and the Pacific. So in a snapshot, I'd like to give both the most striking and I think most controversial and main takeaways from the sessions that I've attended, especially the preparatory sessions and including the main GPDRR. So I'd like to start with this statement that I've heard from the very beginning of the main GPDRR session. And I don't know if some of you heard it, but this statement actually got me interested to listen to the entire session of that first session of the GPDRR, which is, I think, the most realistic sense and way of starting in an unconventional manner. She said, one of the moderators said, that everything is off track. We are in a mess. For me, it's a good and a very controversial statement because we are setting foot that everyone is actually doing something, but we are not guided in a mentality of how can we put together all our efforts leading towards an effort. There's conversations about climate change, sustainable development, settlements, and security. And while we know and we cannot discredit the fact that all of this are significant, what are we really trying to move forward with all this that are relatively close to those especially that are living in the most vulnerable? So this statement got me so attached to listening to the most interesting sessions, and here are some of the takeaways. And it's difficult, I know you guys find difficulty in capturing in few minutes or so, but I'd like to make perhaps to try capturing some of the takeaways jumping off from this opening statement. the first one, and I think this is also reflected in the Bali agenda, that we need to break the silo. We need to stop the silo mentality of institutions and bureaucracies, government, and even civil society and the private sector groups working alone, working independently. The key word there is to think resilience. That in all of our actions, in all of our efforts, the core of our decision making must be guided by the science and the way we build resilience. Why is that? Because while efforts have been made in all of the several aspects aligned to several agenda, the most important question is how does it translate down to the most vulnerable communities? And that moves forward beyond policy agreements, state negotiations, and the most important thing is that it is being translated down to the local level. Because we cannot go away with the present reality that the risks are more systemic than ever. And it is the locals, the most vulnerable groups, who suffer the most of the impacts of this systemic risk. And while we do that, while we think resilience, we must now embrace the reality that climate change, environment, human security are all inherently linked. And it's very important that we try to be unconventional in the way we think of resilience, because these are the unprecedented times. That's why this generation, this lifetime really matters, not just to our generation but to the future generations. And while we do so, it's important that we let science speak. And the science doesn't mean to scare us. It actually enables us, guides us in the way we decide and the way do we think resilience. And then last important point under this takeaway is that we as advocates in the young professional sector or even in the government sector, we must think move closer to building co-ownership. This is something that is I'm personally advocating for. Co-ownership is something that we do not just transfer to anyone, but something that we co-develop and build. And that is, I think, what drives community participation, the ability of our fellows and the community level to part of something that is part of us. The second one is adaptive governance as a key measure in breaking silo in thinking resilience. Adaptive governance is a recurring theme during the Asia Pacific Science and Technology Conference, which was held in Manila, and even to the recently concluded Bonn Climate Change Conference, which is a pre COP27 conference. Adaptive governance allows not just our leaders to make decisions that are leading towards the ability to think of risk now, but to anticipate for future risks, future scenarios. And adaptive governance is binded by the adaptation strategies. But while doing so, we need to acknowledge that adaptation has also its limitations. That is why we need to build the culture of responsibility, I think, which was highlighted by President Jokowi in his speech, which is very empowering because it allows the most ordinary citizen down to the local level to be part of the governance. I'd like to break the stereotype that governance is equivalent to the government. Governance is not just the government leaders. It includes the people being governed. And that's what makes governance so beautiful. And then last 2 points under this takeaway is that we are in the exceptional times, and this demand exceptional solidarity. What is happening is in the Philippines might be similar to Nepal, to India, to Malaysia and Indonesia. And our solidarity would mean sharing this main scenarios, these main lessons, to translate it into some innovative lessons, and perhaps share this sense of solidarity between borders. And while doing so, we can also emphasize the community participation. And then lastly, my favorite part is that representation matters. And I think that's the best part about the seventh GPDRR, which was emphasized by the SRG, Mami Mizutori. He said that this seventh GPDRR is the most attended GPDRR amongst the persons with different abilities. And I like that. It was very evident, and I'd like to congratulate the host country because the persons with disabilities were very much recognized and their needs are catered during the entire sessions. And I appreciate it because it was my first time to see such uniquely and significantly organized event to cater the most persons with disabilities. They are no longer vulnerable sector, but they are people being able to build capacities. And of course, representation from young people. And I'd like to recognize and appreciate as well You Inspire Alliance and You Inspire Indonesia for putting forward the advocacy in the Asia Pacific, making our advocacies be heard. And while being heard, we are also lobbying at the table, at the UN table. And it feels good that we are not just considered as young people during disaster response operations, but people involved in prevention and mitigation, and among others. And then lastly, banking on the co-creation aspect, we are part of the solution. And I think that is one of the most important takeaways, that while we are currently being pressed by the crisis, by all the problems that is happening in the world, we are creating something and we are being part of the solution. So to conclude this sharing, we can say that during that session we can surmise that we are different, we represent different flags, we represent different sectors, but we are binded by that purpose. And I know you can answer very much clearly that purpose is, and that is to make sure that we live by with a comfortable life, with living with risks, adapting to risks, and not just surviving to risk. So you can name your purpose, and I can say that we all agree that resilience must be our future, or must be our foresight. So with that, maraming salamat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne. That was powerful, and nostalgia hits hard and repeatedly now. It shows how well and thoroughly you connected with every part of GPDRR that you could practically attend. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Finally, Keigo from You Inspire Japan. Keigo, you joined us almost 2 days after the GP began, and we cannot be appreciative enough for your spirited participation and contribution, even though you were tired from the long travel that you took. And so UA put up a booth at the innovation platform of GPDRR, where you too were in charge not once but twice. So from your experience, what do you think were the demographic patterns of the visitors who were interested to connect with You Inspire Alliance, and which countries did they come from? Was there anyone from the Middle East or Turkey? And it'll be helpful if you can elaborate on this with a reason, if you can identify. Over to you.
Thank you for your question. I will share my point.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. You Inspire Alliance exhibit those large crowd during my experience. Three main type of people may come. The first is I hate black people.
I hate black people.
Bro, same. What's good, niggas?
Ding dong, ding dong.
It's okay. Yeah. Three types. I'm so short stays, but I have a very interesting experience. So maybe more people come in our exhibit, but I
Learn
experience.
some English, you dumb fuck.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Kego, there's an intruder in the meeting. We are taking care. Can you please give us a minute?
Okay, yeah.
Baby, shut the fuck up. Bitch ass.
Yeah, I've taken all the co-host permission, so no one is accepting anyone. So I'll be the one accepting and also removing. I think that's all.
Thank you, Hanif. Thank you so much.
It's all
And
clear.
Kego, sorry once again for the interruption.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So three type of people come our booth. So first, from research institutes around the world, people from research institutes studying disaster prevention and climate change showed interest. And especially there were people from Sweden and China or something like this. And the second is International Cooperation Organization. International A organized from Kenya, China, and Japan showed their cooperation. And some were willing to join new alliance, and others were willing to consider financial support. Yeah, the third is the stakeholders who now use young people. Something not now that there was an alliance in their country, and they were surprised that there we have 14 chapters. The Korean, for example, Korean people person say that he knew some young people in own country, and they would contact them with us. So I believe that the reason why they visited our booth was because they wanted to help US people and help the importance of connecting with US people. So here is the scene of the day of the event. Yeah, I feel that funding for activities is very important for youth, and I saw the potential for support on this platform. Japan is also currently trying to obtain funds, and I felt that it is important to continue to recruit collaboration for activities in the future. And I think it's important to connect with many local stakeholders for this support. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kego. And once again, sincere apologies for the disturbance that was totally unforeseen. So I would just like to convey one thing, that the person who asked this question shared the reason also. Maybe you would like to know. So Turkey, it has at least 3 major universities which have a unit or a department related to disaster studies or disaster management. So this implies that they too are uptrend with disaster risk reduction. Therefore, if they are interested in joining UNspire Alliance, maybe we look forward to expanding it. Thank you once again, Kego.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think, Anne, you had a question that you wanted to ask me, was that?
Yes, I just raised my hand.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question to you, Saran.
Yeah.
Okay, CRRP has contributed to the GRR thematic session and publication.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to be a part of this thematic session? And what is GRR? And what was the three takeaway from the GRR session that you want to share?
Right. Thank you, Anne, for that question. So when I learned earlier that I may be required to share a bit on this question, particularly, I requested Dr. Repal from UA India to help me a bit with clarity on this question. And thanks are due to him for his prompt response. I'll try to attempt this, but I think we have him here with us. So in case he feels the need, I would request him to jump in and correct me or add to the points that I'm going to share. So there was an open call for the expression of interest or EOI from the UNDRR to be a part of the technical sessions. And taking up that opportunity, CRRP applied for 2 sessions, out of which it was selected for the this one, unpacking GAR session, governance of systemic risks. Then CRRP attended a couple of meetings, which amazed us because the idea of systemic risk had very different and diverse understanding by professionals in practice and academia across different parts of the world, and of course from different backgrounds. So being youth and young professionals or YYPs there, we were probably the youngest of the lot. And when we participated in the discussions, CRRP, we realized that one of our research papers, it actually highlighted and sort of emboldened all the themes in consideration. We proposed that our study, a CRRP study, be made a part of the resources that could be made available as a part of the session. And fortunately, and very gratefully so, the organizers went through the study, after which it was found to be relevant. So they went ahead and adopted it in GAR 2022, the session. Here, as Dr. Repal shared, there are 2 types of contributions. One, where our studies are used to develop the GAR, and then the other kind, where our studies are used and also adopted. So this is how we became a part of the session. Coming to the next part of your question, which is what is GAR? So officially, Global Assessment Report or GAR, it is defined as the flagship report on the UN on worldwide efforts for DRR. So this is basically something like the IPCC's assessment reports. So what happens is all the frontline studies done in the field of DRR are integrated and collated to develop a report. And this happens every 2 years. This report helps us by giving an idea of what's happening, what's lacking, and what could possibly be done or what to expect ahead along those lines. So each of the GAR reports, the global assessment reports, had subtle underlying theme. For example, 2017 had MSMEs, private sector. 2019 had systemic risk and evolving risk scape. This year, it was more focused on governance of systemic risk. It talked about adaptive and transformative governance. So this formed the underlying focus of the report this time. Takeaways from the session are something which have directly come from Dr. Repal. So I'll try to recall those in points. The first was risk is systemic, as Rachel has also shared. This essentially does not mean that it cascades and compounds, but it is a recognition of the fact that risk is socially or humanly driven. Our decisions, our actions, so our inactions as well. Analytical modeling, it can help us only so far. Second point was coherence, which was found to be largely amiss when UNDRR, when it talks about comprehensive risk management, Only a few understand it as DRR plus CCA, or DRR and CCA, or climate change adaptation. They are seen differently or independently, and hence what is happening is there are too many hooks. There are several schemes and plans and so on and so forth coming in. So it's sort of spoiling the broth there. Then, oh yeah, there was a point on silos where we talk about puncturing the silos, right? As Rachel had also pointed out. So it is still present across ministries, departments, disciplines. Much of DRR at the top, it does not get done because of the mandates, the stereotypical mandates of ministries and departments, and even at the bottom for that matter. So it's about our lack of willingness, our lack of intent to step outside our zone of comfort and understanding. And of course, then there's language barriers and lingos, etc. So we say this is a transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary, but we are not really probably leveling the playground for everyone. And there lies the problem of inclusion. And so, yeah, I think this was it. And I hope that has answered. And thanks to Dr. Repal again for helping me with this question. I hope I have been able to help you understand this a bit.
Thank you, Saran. Your explanation is very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So moving further with this session, so far we have had quite relevant sharing from our speakers. We tried something new with specific questions for our speakers to define and give a structure to this recap of GPDRR. And there is a lot more to cover. So we may not be able to take us through every bit of it, but let's hear some special remarks from our Secretary General of the U-Inspired Alliance, Dr. Rehma Hanifa. Dr. Rehma, you scaled heights and you continue to do so, and we continue to grow prouder of you as you inspire us all. As a result, we have not one, but two questions for you. I'll go one by one. First one goes here. You were on the panel in the 12th thematic session of GPDRR, which talked about cooperation across borders. Can you maybe share something from there, maybe a few bits of your takeaways?
Thank you very much, Saran, and I'm very happy and feel very blessed and acknowledge the presence of this GPDRR talk and the contribution, engagement of all youth and young professionals within U-Inspire Alliance Network through GPDRR, either physically and also virtually. I think it's really good that we can come up with more young people joining the GPDRR. And as Anne and Rachel has also highlighted, more women and also more groups, disabled people included, indigenous people also. And this really gives more colors. And I think that's how we are invited. I am invited as U-Inspire Alliance on the thematic session 12 on cooperation across borders. So we can see, and others can also start to see, that young people are among them who can break the silos, as Rachel has mentioned, quoting what Hanif has mentioned too, because of the agile and flexibility of the young people, and also bonded with digital culture, that we can be flexible across borders. I mean, we are really across borders, and we are really showing the good practices despite the many struggles that we have. So during the session, we highlighted our communique. It's very happy that we can have a chance to summarize our communique in this session, along with the voice of Indonesia and others. And so we highlighted three main keys. The first is how to strengthen multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary, and transboundary collaboration for technology transfer, resources, and knowledge to enhance capacity, data accessibility, effectiveness, and efficiency of disaster risk management and resilience. The second is twinning scheme through neighbor help neighbor, and also fostering the regional cooperation. Because as we see in Asia Pacific, for example, we can see that the capacity of each country to manage the disaster risk is really very. Therefore, we really need to have a transboundary cooperation between each country, south to south, and also neighbor to neighbor. And the third one, we can also have an opportunity to voice out the importance of empowering youth, young scientists, young professionals in a gender and inclusively balanced manner as a vehicle for regeneration. To encourage more young people participation as the front line in cross-border cooperation, considering the characteristic of young people who are close to technology, flexible, and have the potential to break the borders. And this statement is also highlighted in our co-chair summary. So in the co-chair summary, young professionals and youth, including women and disabled persons, are explicitly mentioned. And we also received a message from Animesh Kumar, who lead the co-chair summary, that now the young professionals and youth have had the highlights as the co-chair summary, and we also call it Bali Agenda for Resilience. Then we need to make use of it, how to mobilize more resources for young people, for example, how not to lose our motivation, but use this momentum to highlight more, to learn how to mobilize resources using this co-chair summary. So the co-chair summary is available on the website, and we can definitely use this as a basis if we want to submit proposal and propose other collaboration. We receive many collaboration invitation after this, so I think we will need more hand to hand to bring our movement forward. Thank you.
Thank you for answering that, Dr. Rehma. We had another question for you, the next one. It is a rather interesting one, which says, the Sasakawa Award is one of the most prestigious ones in the DRR domain, and we are truly proud that our Secretary General was one of the panelists on the selection committee. Can you please help us understand what are the points or indicators which are considered for nomination, and what are the selection criteria?
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So it was really surprising being invited as one of the Sasakawa jury, and also providing some keynotes during the session. We received about 200 applications worldwide from across continents. But honestly speaking, we don't really have many young people actually. So we have a very diverse from all continents. We have quite a balance, women, disabled person, and so on. But if we are seeing the balance of young people, the young people is less than 30% in the nomination. And we have both individual and organization category, which is quite different from last year. And from each category, we decided to have 3 winners for both individual and organization. It was very difficult indeed, and we have established at least 9 criteria for the selection processes. The first one is showing demonstration of multi-hazard approach. The second is level of inclusiveness and equality. The third one is degree of innovation and sustainability. The fourth one, enhancement of community empowerment. The fifth one is reduction of exposure to hazard. 6, relevance to Sendai framework. 7, improvement of social protection measure. 8, coherence generation between several domains, group operation, and other normative frameworks. And lastly, and importantly, the potential for scaling up. So all the nomination that we have chosen, we really try to choose who can resonate the passion, vision, strong leadership, and very engaged, including in driving the others. we also see how each of the individuals and organization can also have a lifetime award. So like it's not we understand that this person and this organization will serve for a very long DRR and resilience, and also having the capability to engage the others, um, and bring more people to move together through DRR. I think all of us know Professor Rajib Show, and we can clearly see how he can have all of this category. And I also believe that I think when I learned about Pacific Disaster Center, it's more or less remind me of UNSPAR Alliance. So this organization is not they are not a short-term organization, but they have been for years, for decades. We can see they have a high and up and down, and producing many innovation, producing how failures or how they evaluate to be better, and also how they can engage directly with people at risk, and local communities. So I think seeing all this, I think if UNSPAR Alliance or our members can also move towards a long-term commitment, addressing, I think the category will be different year by year, but there will be also criteria that will stay. The long-term commitment, how we can innovate, and also how we can move and bring many people together. So I think this is actually reflected in our community as well. So if, for example, say in 2 years, 5 years, we can commit to our commitment, we can find ways to break our struggle or our difficulties, we can keep our positive energies despite the negative energies. I think we can really be in the nomination maybe in the next 5 or 10 years. So I really hope that one day UNSPAR Alliance and also one of us can receive the Sasakawa Award ahead. I'm happy that we also have the really youth members of UNSPAR Alliance contributing to GPDRR. You who are in your 20s, because you will really be our estafette to bring our movement forward and to keep the lights on. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rema. The hope is that soon, someday, someone from UA gets home one Sasakawa and takes UA to the heights that we can imagine today. So here we have almost reached the conclusion of the session. Before that, though, I would like to inform our attendees that the link to avail certificate has been put up in the chat box. It will be active till 6:30 p.m. Jakarta time only. Kindly fill up the form to get your certificate. So finally, I would like to invite a very fun person, the person because of whom the GPDRR Diaries is full of photos and videos, which will go into a spoof movie on GPDRR to be released someday very soon. Mr. Ahmed Sufyan, the co-chair of the UNSPIRE Alliance. So there was one very thoughtful question for you, not one, actually a few, so maybe I can just go one by one. First question for you, Sufyan, is how difficult is it to participate in an event during a pandemic?
Oof, I think it's very hard because there's a lot of different factors that you have to take into account before attending. And I think especially now that if you want to attend events physically, international travels, there's different countries have different requirements, which all add up into the cost before you are able to go there. So I think for youth and young professionals, especially traveling in this current time, to attend events physically would be a bit costlier to compared to on a normal day. But one good thing is that a lot of the sessions now have moved into hybrid mode, where you do have people attending online. So you do have the opportunity to then attend and be part of sessions, listen into the discussion without having to travel physically. So the pandemic has opened up that opportunity with things being online. But it's very hard to deny that there's a lot of advantage of attending sessions physically. And cost-wise, because of the pandemic, it has become a bit more costlier depending on the country that you go. So there's pros and cons to both, but I guess if you do have the opportunity, attending events online is always a good opportunity.
Very well said. Cannot agree more. So the next question is, what do you think is the most important thing in organizing GPDRR 2022 particularly? What was the most important thing?
I think, I can't really answer on the behalf of the organizers, but I think, and I think a lot of you also spoke about this as well, is that this particular GP, there was a great emphasis on diversity, inclusivity, and making sure that there is representation from the different stakeholders. I think it's easier said than done, because oftentimes you try very hard to get the representation from the different stakeholders, and it's not an easy thing to do. So this GP in particular, I think they did a fantastic job in trying to make the sessions more inclusive. They had the sign language interpreters for almost all of the sessions. They made sure that there's representation, not just from Asia, because this is the first GP after the pandemic, and they managed to bring people from Africa, from Pacific Islands, from North America, South America to attend the GP. So I think organizing a conference is getting the representation when organizing a conference would be one of the challenge, and making sure that all the topics are covered and people who attend are able to fully embrace and fully get the experience of attending a global event.
Right, could relate. Thank you. And last question, how was GPDRR carbon neutral? It'll be great if you can shed some light on this.
Oh, that's a very tough question. I think just to put it out there, whenever it involves traveling on a plane, there is definitely your carbon emission. So it's one thing traveling. So even joining online, a lot of people will say that electricity, internet, those are some of the things that does make carbon. So I won't be able to answer that question. I'm not really an expert in carbon neutral, but I do think that because it has a combination of both physical and online participants, that it does sort of make sure that there is a balance of those who take the plane, go events physically, and those who join in online. So all of the participants, whether they join in physically or they join online, were able to be part of the sessions, and they were able to understand and listen into what some of the speakers have said. So I think to that extent, it has opened up a new avenue for making the sessions as neutral as possible.
Understood. Thank you, Sufyan. May I please request you to take over and close the session for us with your final words? Sure,
Saran, and thank you very much for being an amazing moderator for this session. I think I would like to echo almost all of the speakers that have spoken before me, and I think this is 1 month after GPDRR. I do still miss being there, being close to the friends, some of my friends, my colleagues, being able to discuss, interact, and also engage with amazing people. So there are a few things that maybe we could sort of like reflect, and especially those who are able to attend the sessions physically. We have to understand that though that is an opportunity that not many were able to get. And so what we could do as those who attended the sessions is then to share some of the experiences and to share some of the information that we learned, because I think whenever we have the opportunity to experience something, the good thing or the next thing to do is to share the experience with someone else, your friends or your colleagues. And that would then, compound whatever that we learn and make sure that the information is sort of like transferred to the community. So we have to understand that we had the amazing opportunity of being in Bali. Not everyone had that opportunity. So we have to make good use of it and share the experiences that we learn. Another thing that I think was brought up also during the discussion is on communication. So You Inspire Alliance, we had the communique on the statements that we made during GP. And we have to understand and we have to realize that communication is a very important aspect of what we do. So oftentimes we could do amazing work, but if we don't communicate it to the public or we don't communicate it to those others out there, we sort of like lose the impact on the community. So communication is an important tool for engagement and also for advocacy. So we're organizing all of this Choco Talk DRR. We're organizing all of this important sessions. These are some examples of communication and a good example of how we then communicate some of the experiences and knowledge that we have to others. So communication is very important. And I think another point that was raised during a lot of the discussion is on representation. So whether it's gender representation, age representation, youth diversity, those are some of the very important things to make sure when we are considering or doing an event. So when we have good representation, we are able to also learn from the experiences from other people. And sometimes you will realize that what is done but in another community could then be used, or you could use it to share or do things with your community. So when you have great representation, you have more different indigenous and local knowledge that you can also learn. So celebrating people from different diversity and disabilities. So understanding that also goes back to communication, that when we want to communicate, it's also good to learn, what the other people, maybe the local language or sign language. So we learn effective ways to communicate and share the knowledge. And I guess just to end my talk, I think we've heard a lot from during GP on all the different action items, things that we want to do, things that are important, things moving forward, what are the priorities, etc. So now it's about how do we then, really focus our energy and our efforts to address some of the items and steps that were outlined. So how do we continue to get greater representation of youth in the next GP, for example? How do we as youth then leverage on our skills and our understanding of the community, of our innovative, creative knowledge? How do we then use those skills in addressing some of the steps that were outlined in the GPDRR, outcomes? So moving forward, this is, of course, people always say this is not the end, this is the beginning. But we really have to, sit down, think, look at what was discussed during GP, and see how things can be moved forward. As we all know, or as you will find out, that there will be the APMC DRR happening in September. So how do we then take the momentum from GP, bring it to the Asia Pacific level, where most of the UN Inspire chapters and also a lot of the youth here are part of? So how do we then make sure that the momentum continues and we build upon the momentum to have a greater impact and also a greater presence during the next global or regional event? So I have full faith in everyone here and everyone that I've engaged during GPDRR in Bali. I've learned a lot from everybody who was present. I always tell people that, you guys are the disaster experts and I'm the disaster. So this is an amazing group. And I do think that, if we work collectively, we can, act upon a lot of the things that were outlined and really push forward in having greater impact in our communities, regionally, locally, and also globally. So I think that's all for me. Thank you very much, and back to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sufyan. So this session is now officially closed. Thank you everyone for joining in. And before we all start leaving, I request everyone to kindly turn on their videos so that we can take a quick snapshot for this GPDRR exclusive before we forget. Hanif, may I request you to take the photograph?
Yes. Okay. Anybody interested to open up their videos? Maybe Keigo? Titis? We also have Devita Gio. Will you be able to open your camera, Gio?
Oh, I can't. Yeah, you.
Mario, okay. Devi, Oka.
Skip me.
Okay, we have Gatot. We have. Oh, she just left. Okay, then I'll take a screenshot.
Yeah.
And wait, there's a pop-up. Okay, in 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's do it one more time after I share it to the group. Let's do a freestyle for this one. Okay, that's it. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a fun session.
Everyone.
Take care.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Everyone. Thank you, Sarah,
Thank you,
for
Mas Gatot.
organizing that moderation.
Thank you, Dr. Anifa. Dr. Rama, thank you.
I love you.
May I request Hanif and Daus to kindly take over and play the closing video?
Okay.
Okay. Daus, please play the closing video. Can you share screen?
Thank you, Mr. Hanif.
Thank you, Mas Gatot.
Inspire Alliance is a network of youth and young professionals working in science, engineering, technology, and innovation.
Inspire Alliance provides the platform for youth and young professionals to connect, engage, and learn from other youth and experts in the region.
We are not only at the international conferences or at the laboratories. Inspire is working together with the local community in the field.
Our main objective is to provide a platform for youth and young professionals to participate in problem-solving actions towards disaster risk reduction.
To participate in decision making, demonstrating their ability for advocacy, communication and consultation, as well as leveraging advanced technology.
We strongly believe that inclusivity is the integral factor of DRR. Hence, all our work and projects are people-centric and from the communities on the ground.
We are committed to supporting youth leadership. We are happy to work with the Inspire Alliance.
Inspire Alliance bridges the gap between professionals and young specialists and make it possible to exchange knowledge and experience between Asian countries to make them more resilient.
We work with youth and the young professionals from the academe and the industry sectors to build back better in a post-pandemic world.
Inspire has connected us and bring us together to contribute for disaster risk reduction and climate change by utilizing science, engineering, technology, and innovation.